So now we're flying with Unisari. Everyone's flying with Unisari. Lion, Tezra is in the front, and Mercurial the ram and is taking a nap, snuggled up with Jake and the lion, Raed. So they're all taking a nap there, while the lion is or sorry, the Jaguar Raed is taking a nap there, and they're all snuggled up. They've had a long journey through the desert. They just met the lion, remember, and they boarded up after the Sea Goat King got Unisari flying again by giving them this silver that got the horn resonating, and then with this electromagnetic energy, the special form of silver, has got them flying. So they're following the Sea Goat King and the two elephants up through the sky to get to the east coast from the mountains that they just got to the top of. And the hawk is flying behind them, taking up the rear. And the lion is up at the front, sort of this mighty lion riding this mythical creature. Tezra is really pleased that she gets to be at the business meetings, and they're taking the lion seriously, even though the lion sort of makes a ruckus sometimes. They welcome her into the party. And so, but Tezra feels her stomach starts to growl, and so she starts whispering into the ears of Unisari. Says, I got to eat. I'm a lion. I'm getting hungry up here. I had to protect my interests and make sure that I'd be at this meeting, but I didn't have any food with me, and we got to land. I'm getting hungry up here. And Unisari says, I'm just flying for you. We got to check in with the boss, the one on schedule, so I'm gonna have to fly up there and catch up to the Goat King, and we can see if we can get you food. And the lion's like, okay, okay, okay. But the lion's like, I've got this great food. Just tell the, And the lion starts boasting. He's got this great food, stored down on the sides of these mountains that they're gonna have to go a little bit further south because it's on these mountain ranges. And the lion turns around, and starts waking everybody up on the flight, and saying how he's got this, or Tezra has got this really protein rich pearled oats that are covered in chocolate, and then they mold them out there in these sort of on the sides of these mountains where it gets dew in the morning time, and then these so the lion starts telling the story. The lion's all like pleased and is giving this rambling story about how they have these special secret meetings. The lion's all bragging about these secret meetings they have with these hermits in the mountains towards the east coast that kind of go up and down the desert that connect. This mountain range connects the northern and the southern areas that are divided usually by the desert and the canal systems up the north of the desert. But along the east coast, there's this mountain range, and the lion's telling how they pretty much were the rulers of this mountain range, and the jaguars are so great, they've got the plateau, but the lions really the lions their pride is really in these mountain ranges where they have these hermits that are like the hermit that we met on the other side down south. So they have meals with cats from time to time, and the lions bragging about how they've got these the hermit this hermit lady at this one mountain leaves out these giant vats of pearled oats with chocolate, and these pearled oats are really protein rich, and so the diet the it's complementary to the diet of a hungry lion who can't get, there's no deer in the area, and there are no rams on the surface, and the lion's always doing this thing with the head. It's upset everyone. All the cats are upset with the Goat King because they don't have as much game and herd. The Goat King's stingy, but they have this deal with the hermits in the mountain, and so the uh, Riot sitting there listening to this is like, yeah, this is excellent. This is excellent news, Tezra. Ja actually came up with Luna and raided your stash a little bit. We know all about your moldy oatmeal that you got out there, in the grasses. And so the lion and the jaguar, they're telling the story how they've got this really cool stuff now that they're growing, on this moldy oatmeal. And the lion says that the lion will scoop up with her paws and get all of this chocolatey pearled oatmeal and rub it all in the lion's mane, and then he gets this sort of mangy stuff and goes out into the mountains where there's this really tall grass, and this grass will collect dew very easily. And the lions found that special white molds will grow on this like dark chocolate covered, grayish whitish pearled oat. Well, there's these molds that will grow on it when it's exposed to these grasses, and it just so happens that the chocolate will make it so that it inhibits the mold growth of any kind of toxic molds, and they get this special mold that the lions is just it's the pride of the mole the lions sort of intelligence plan now with because everyone's got these relationships with different chemical and agricultural systems. Um, and so the lion's sort of showing off like, hey, this is what we got. This is why I was like saying, I don't really want your bullfunk cap there from the human had, because this stuff actually doesn't put me to sleep. I can eat this stuff because it's got a very small micromold that just grows a white powder on it. And sure, it has some, it's a very clarifying and energizing thing that lasts like 12 hours. I don't have to take a nap like you do with this red cap that you're all proud of with your bowl. So the lion's sort of bragging, 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 and Raed's like, yeah, Jaw kind of raided your stash a little bit with Luna on the way up, and it got him for their journey up there. But there's plenty left, so I'm really glad. Everybody. So everybody's happy. Everybody's excited to go get this stuff, and they catch up to the Goat King, and Tezra's kind of bragging, like, oh, it has this mildly disorienting properties as it starts to kick in, but oh, I've got this tolerance to it. But if you don't eat too much at too fast, you're fine. It'll give you some energy, some clarity, and you'll be able to tune in better to everything going on around you as we're going into this next phase of the journey. And Raed sort of like pipes up as tolerance is one thing, integration is another. Is what Raed says. Don't be so boastful about your moldy oatmeal. Tezra, it's really great medicine that you're doing, and us jaguars, we like it too. But I don't see you sitting, meditating with a cactus, and those blue flowers. So your psychic connection is just getting turned on now with your moldy oatmeal and your hermit friends. But what we've got going on with the underneath our plateau with the gator people is something that you're just going to be introduced to. And so your role on the surface of this planet is going to come into new coordination with the Goat King. And so we're really grateful to partake in this medicine with y'all. But you know, what you're bragging about is really not a big thing, especially compared to the fact that we're flying, right here because of what the Goat King's given us. So let's be hopeful that the Goat King is going to actually let us go south, because the Goat King's not going to be happy about this. But I'm glad that we're in this together. So Mercurial is very happy that the ram gets to try this new pearled oatmeal. All these fun for the ram to find these new things on the surface of this world. And likewise, Jake is just like, wow, this sounds great. Been tuning into new things. He's never been to the East Coast other than that one time when he was over there on the southern continent. Now he's crossed the desert and is happy to see this new climate. So they kind of get up alongside the Goat King, and the Goat King is just like, huh, yeah, leave it to a bunch of, land-loving cats to forget snacks when they're gone for, aircraft. And so the Goat King sort of like sniffles and is like, all right, I understand you guys got to eat. You weren't prepared. You didn't have a meal for this flight. And we just kind of hopped on and went. So, but I'm gonna send an elephant with you south to keep you on track while I go meet up with this eel character and these northerners who are gonna sort of meet us for this business meeting, make sure everything's on track with them. And Rod says, yeah, Jaw is with Luna, with the other ram coming up the east coast, and they will be meeting at the end of the canals where they're supposed to meet, at the rest of their party. And then the hawk pipes up and says, yeah, I got bad news. Um, your sister there, Vestibula, and the whole party with the crabs, they had an issue with some loose circuits on a machine that was reported by the Hawk Scouts that they were with, and then relayed to us. And they said they had a machine malfunction. They had to abandon ship on the boat. They are now in the northern woods, and so who knows how if they're gonna make it. And the Goat King is pissed. The Goat King is just like, my elephants shouldn't have to be this slow with the news. And then he starts yelling at his elephants, why do you not have this information that the hawk people are telling us that we're missing a ram? And do I need to send an elephant over there to get that other ram? And so there's this big argument, and the Goat King sends one elephant back west to go find this lost ram, because the Goat King again is responsible for the rams underneath, and one of them got sidetracked by apparently Lee, or Eel had communicated with the crab people to send one uh, further north, and then go east, because they were going to meet up with these crab people and carry this machine that apparently got damaged. And so they've lost their machine, they've lost their ability to travel by boat over to the business meeting. So everything's sort of in disarray now. They had their plan, they were all on track to make it to this business meeting, but now we found out we got a hungry lion, and it was kind of getting a scent for this ram. But it feels like, I need to be a good steward to this ram. I'm not just going to eat this ram. Obviously, they're trying to set up a business deal so we can get more rams actually out there for the lions to work with in future generations. So the Goat King's pissed. The Goat King's all right. I'm gonna have to go by myself, and I'm gonna have to get some of my monkeys to come. These flying, the Goat King rules the sea and the sky. He's the king of the mountain, king of the depths of the sea. So I'm gonna have to get my monkeys to talk to people here. These flying monkeys, we're gonna have to send them after people, and maybe get the gators to just chop things up with people. Maybe people might get eaten here, and this is not going to be a good scene. We don't want to have to do this all over again tomorrow, is what Raed says. And the Goat King's like, yeah, I'm not going to make any unnecessary sacrifice, but this is business. This is bad business. You were supposed to guide these rams. You let one of them go. The Goat King's pissed at Raed for not bringing both of the rams east, the way she was told, for surrendering stuff to the crab people, and the Goat King has this great relationship with the crab people, but is now upset about this because the Goat King is the one responsible for really getting the crab people from the seashore into coordination with other groups of people initially, even though the crab people are very much invested with the scorpion people, the snake people, and whatnot. So the Goat King feels extremely insulted in his diligence with time and his relationships with the business for trafficking these rams. Which are, they're trying to establish a new set of evolution for the various groups of people. And so things are thrown off. The Goat King heads up north to meet up with the monkeys, to get the flying blue monkeys to get things on track, while one elephant goes to go check out to see if he can maybe give them a ride. If we can get an elephant to take the ram back to meet up at that point, which is the east point, where the canal ends at the coast, and they fly down south to go Unisari, and then they fly down and they get into the fields, and then sure enough, there's all these chunks of they look like clusters of pearls that have the sort of this brownish orange sort of sun dried goo that has crustified, that then has this white sort of powder on it. And the lion says, yeah, just pick. They're almost like berries that are on these grasses, and there's ants running around to it. And the lion says, yeah, don't mind the ants. They're moving the molds. They go for the sugar that's there with the chocolate, and then they don't eat all the protein and everything. So we get a good rich protein snack along with the molds that the ants are moving, to these lumps that are kind of like that come off of the mange when the lion sort of shakes off all this oatmeal in this area of grasses. So everyone sort of has these snacks, they're the rams run around munching on these snacks, and the jaguar, the lion, and Jake, they all munch up, and sure enough, they start getting this sort of melt into this sense of clarity with one another and energy, and then they get back on Unisari and they start flying north to meet up with the Goat King, and hopefully they're not too late for the goat. The Sea Goat King is just Acricorn is not happy, but is willing to work with the delays. So meanwhile, back at the boating situation. Remember, we had the crab people had to abandon ship. Remember, Crackler is the lobster man, and then we have these two mother crabs, and one of the names is Amla, and the other one is um, Mejra. So Mejra and Amla are both upset that they've lost their machine, which is really this hybridized ant farm. Remember, the ants in this thing are like they're actually baby crabs that have been hybridized with scorpions and ants to form this commune, this colony that does translation work. Then they carry this colony around in a machine, and it's able to communicate all of the different languages of the various peoples around, and then put them out through how the ant colony speaks all these different languages, and then uses these different semi-toxic chemicals. And then now we find out that because Vestibula had rolled around little, and had been stung by all these little baby hybridized scorpion ants. And first gets this sort of buzz and gets high as they abandon ship, as they jump over ship, right? So remember, Lee and John have jumped over ship, and so has their lobster friend Crackler and Amla and uh, Meshra. And so Vestibula is getting high on this stuff in a similar way that Unasari had gotten high, and so and then they see this, and Unasari's like, Vestibula's like, hey, I'm feeling a buzz. This is cool. Like, I understand what Unasari was rolling around those fire ants for. They scared me at first, like they were stinging me, and I was freaking out, and I'm sorry, I lost the crab suit and had made us have to abandon ship, and so. Vestibula is coming out and again coming into her character more because she's out of the ram suit now, or out of the crab suit, and is apologizing for blowing their cover, and so it's taking this responsibility for being a young ram in this new world to her. But it's saying like, hey guys, I'm kind of turning on to this buzz that you guys all are consuming these different substances, and I liked the red cap that you gave me, that gave me energy, but this stuff now I can really tune in, and by the way, I can understand y'all a lot better now. And so Amla speaks up and says, um, yeah, those hybridized scorpions actually were hybridized by the scorpion people, and they used the DNA, they used the genetics of the rainbow snake babies to make it so that we would have these baby crabs that then produce in a scorpion stinger. They produce the neurological molecules that are in the brains, remember, of these rainbow snakes, and plus they have the buzz that the ants have, the fire ants also have. So they bite with the fire ant, and they sting you with the scorpion venom that is now also not just a deadly scorpion venom, but instead it's this language enhancing molecule that normally only baby snakes brains really work with and have. So now we have um, Vestibula is now under the influence of this same stuff that John has, and so now Vestibula is able to perceive she was feeling this motherly sense to these sort of motherly crabs, and she was sort of like their fake baby crab. She can now understand them better. She doesn't have the crab shell on anymore, but she can easily understand their movements and the way that they're talking in this subtler way with each other, and not everyone can always understand what they're talking about unless they use this special translator, which is really slow and clunky, or if they have just if they get stung by these, or if they eat the extract from the rainbow snakes, or if they have. So now basically the crabs are really happy because they've sort of got a new market on what usually the snakes had. So the crabs are sort of like, dude, we got these new baby crabs that have special medicine that they make, and they don't even have to die like these baby snakes did to give more people the ability to communicate with crabs. So the crabs are like, their cover's a little bit blown, but it's okay because it's really just more ability to communicate for everyone. And now they've got this marketable product that sure the cover's blown on this fake computer thing. That it did have software in it, right? It did translate from the insects with the way that they scratched on the sticks to like the wolves would. And so but they're all swimming to the shore, right, to get over to the forest area. They don't want to travel on the desert side. They want to have berries and snacks to munch on them because they still have to get east. And Crackler's like, this water is toxic water, um, and it's not deadly initially, but it's gonna have a sluggish, intoxicating effect on everyone because it has this deer runoff from the pee of all these deers, and says, when we get into these valleys, we have to find these antidote berries so that we can recover, from because there are these berries that Crackler's aware of, and the crab mothers are aware of this too, and they're like, yeah, we're gonna be in kind of the stew, and they're sort of feeling this, and Lee is drained from his experiences, and he starts feeling this as they get to the shore. but John and Vestibula sort of have this buzz that apparently the stuff sort of provides this immunity, the communication stuff that they get from both from the little hybridized baby ant colonies of the scorpion baby crabs. That molecule that those rainbow snakes have and that these ant colony people have, it ends up producing immunity to some of the draining effects of this purple brown sludge that they just swam through along the canal, where there's these valleys and mountains where the deer. This is really they're in deer country now, and so John and Vestibula decide we're going to go out into the woods and find these berries with Crackler. Crackler can identify the berries, and you all can stoop her out over here, but Crackler at least can. So there's a lobster riding on the back of the ram because the ram has energy. Crackler's kind of like, oh man, I'm not going to find us these berries to get awake again from the toxic sludge from the deer runoff. But John is clear, so John is walking along, sort of like gather these berries, and they're going to carry them back to get everybody together, and then they start seeing big spiders and wolf spiders. There's these big hairy spiders with these fangs, and they're getting into the woods to find these berries, and they just get surrounded by spiders almost right away, and Uh, but all three of them are not too concerned, and in fact, they realize that these spiders are there to talk to them, and because they both have this communication, this language thing, um, Vestibula just it kind of shakes Crackler off his back because he's kind of in this intoxicated stupor, and he's rolling around the ground like, oh, I gotta find the berries, gotta find the berries, and Vestibula just goes right up to a tree, starts scratching on the tree like the wolves were doing, to be able to communicate that ant language that again the bats understand and communicate to the jaguars very easily. So they're having this discussion now with the spider wolves that they've gotten surrounded by, and they're not afraid and again these spider wolves have that same they're black wolves they're black spiders, but they're wolf spiders, but they have that same patterning on them as the wolves did down south, and so they have this sort of stripes and dots that are almost like a Morse code pattern on them. That's different colors of a bright glowing green, and then a vibrant sort of purple indigo color. So these whew, almost frightening. Well, they would be frightening wolf spiders, except for these travelers can understand them because they've had that medicine that allows them to tune into more than just the crab language, but also the wolf language, the spider people language, the ants language, and all these different languages. So they have this discussion. The spider's like, "Hey, we need to guide you to meet the chiefs of of the deer, because the deer need to be represented here at this meeting that you're going to." And the spider said, by the way, your berries are right over there. So John runs over there quickly, gets some berries, gets them to Crackler. Crackler starts coming out of it quickly, just chewing on these very sour and bitter berries. It quickly clears up their head from the sludge that's in the deer runoff. And the funny thing is, of course, the berries are almost the same, like purple brown color. They as that runoff and that sludge that had gotten them into that heavy stupor, unless they had that antidote with the language enhancer. So the spiders are like, we understand you're on a time frame here, and you got to get to the Goat King. Our insect network communicates well. We understand what's going on over there. We've heard from the crab people, and the scorpion people and the snake people. We're all on board this together. We're gonna get a whole party of, we're gonna get the owls out there. We've sent word to the woodpecker through the woodpeckers. They're gonna get owls are gonna be meeting at this. It's gonna be a big business meeting. Basically, the spider queen, this big mama spider with these beautiful stripes on her. She comes and she says, Crackler's coming out of it. Like, Crackler, we're glad that you're here. The lobsters and spiders have been able to speak common languages for a long time. and we're gonna have the owl people are gonna meet, and we're gonna have the spider people there, and we're gonna have the deers, or we're gonna have a whole troop of deer chieftains are gonna be led by the head deer chief, and but we're gonna have to get you up into the mountain. We're gonna have to go further north. Basically, you can't just go straight east. We're gonna have to delay the Goat King. Spider Mama is the Spider Queen is saying like Spider Woman is she just likes to be called Spider Woman. She doesn't like to be called Spider Queen. But so she's basically spelling out this broader plan of dimensionality of bringing more people than the Goat King is expecting to see here, because there's a bigger business operation happening with the deer people that really only the deer people can talk about, and they have to speak for themselves because their voice is not being listened to. We haven't met any deer people yet in this story, and so John's hearing all this and is like, yeah, all right, I gotta go, let Lee know about this and see what's going on from Eel's end. And so the Spider Mama, or Spider Woman, she doesn't like to be called Spider Mama. So Spider Woman, uh, it's a grandmother spider really, but Spider Woman she goes by just to not feel overly grandmotherly, and because she's just another insect, she wants to be felt like, but she does have this special webbing ability that she works directly with the deer people in ways we're going to find out when we meet them. So she comes down, and they deliver the berries. They get everybody the berries. Amla and Majra, they get the berries. So the crabs sort of clear up out of the runoff from the pollution from the deer they've just been exposed to. And so they wake up, and then the spider people lead them into a slum in the valleys, because they have to go through the upriver, because there's a river that comes down from these mountains. It goes south and it empties into the canals, and they have to go upriver, and they're going through this valley that's basically a deer slum, and it's where all of they're seeing all these intoxicated deer that are or deer that are just running around frantically running around and babbling in strange languages. But some of they have these language, but so that they realize these deer are talking about things that kind of make sense but not entirely, and they're kind of the deer are crazy in this valley, and or they're intoxicated and they're just gross deer. It stinks because this is where all the runoff comes through, and so they're moving through this deer slum, and the spiders are saying, this is what the deer chiefs want to clean this up. The deer are not, the leaders of the deer are not happy about this at all, but the deer and the humans are, because there's these rogue humans that are kind of like picking off some of the deer, but the deer are like, no, that's not humans' job. We need to move our deer people out of here and move them somewhere else where they can, you know, evolve in a healthier way for themselves and for the environment. But there's these deer chiefs that are up in the mountains where this stuff runs off to. And so they want to get to the deer leaders who've never really met with the other groups as much as they haven't met the Goat King, they haven't met the human. So there's going to be this new leadership meeting from all of the different people out here at the edge of the east, but they have to gather leaders, and so it's a good thing that these hawks are flying around and telling the different groups that are all kind of dispersed and trying to get together what all is going on. So they're traveling along, and there's this deer music. There's this band that's playing, and now the spider people are telling them, we're gonna have to get a meal, and we're gonna have to go up into these mountains to meet the deer chief. And why don't we come in here to this inn? And then there's this inn. It's called the Deer Point Inn, and it's at the corner of this big area called Deer Park, and Deer Park is like this it's just called Deer Park because it's a slum where all the deer people are there, and they're just there to live, and not get too overly poisoned with their own feces, right? That doesn't grow their healthy mushroom anymore, but instead has got all these chemicals that they're getting addicted to by their relationships that are supposed to be helping them evolve their consciousness. But this is the relationship they have is kind of a quandary for everybody. It's wondering, are they really helping the deer? It doesn't look like they are because they're polluting the environment with how the deer's consumption practices have left them just breeding and not having any contribution really to the landscape, and instead they're polluting it, and not having any predators or anything to help clean up their messes, technologically wise. But we do hear that the crabs have been working with the humans, and Amla starts telling them as they're getting into the inn to get into this meal. Amla starts saying, you know, Majra and I have been in communication with the humans about this, and we've been talking about getting some new technology together, working with the Goat King to provide some cleanup for what has happened with the deer, because the crabs want to take responsibility. But look, we've been offering our enhancements that we've developed along the way to give us our biotic communities, our extended lifespan, our ability to leave our coral reefs and sort of travel into the mountains. Now even you've got crabs moving around the forests and mountains and stuff, and across deserts even. And so these crabs are like, we take responsibility. There's a side effect of our actions. Crackler's like, yeah, it is. So Crackler's hearing this sort of news too. Like, oh, I didn't know. The big mama crabs are saying like, yeah, look, we've been working with the human government. We don't want humans just picking off deer. We want humans working together with deer to clean up their environmental mess. So we're gonna get some technology going with the Goat King here. Hopefully, soon. In fact, that's gonna be coming out in business meeting. Hopefully, Acricorn is gonna spell that out. So meanwhile, they're at this inn, and they do this deer dance. They witness this deer dance where there's all these deer people, and so they'd moved through the valley, and they sort of gotten this like, oh god, these deer people are crazy and like intoxicated. But then they see there's at the inn they have an entertainment thing for their dinner and for their meal, and the deer people put on this wonderful show where they're all decorated in various spider wardrobe. The spider people have weaved them these uh, antler ornaments and cloaks and bells. They've gotten fashioned from some of the humans are not like there's two different kinds of rogue humans, right? There's rogue humans that like the deer people, and they're very loving and friendly with them, and they've sort of become part of the deer tribe. There's not a lot of them, but they've become sort of like the new stewards of the deer, but that are really learning from the deer. They're not even stewarding the deer. They're just like learning the ways of the deer. And so, but they work with the deer and with the crab people and with the spider people to sort of decorate the deer so the deer can tell their story. And so this is sort of like they witness at the inn the more metropolitan or cosmopolitan sort of version of the deer story, that where there are no deer down south, it takes every member of the forest to tell the story of the deer every other day with a ram who dresses up like a deer, and they sort of has this deer's journey as a ram, as deer's journey across the southern part of the continent. But up north, there's lots of deer, and lots of deer know more than a lot of people think the deer know. And so the deer do this play, and they put together this sort of musical. And at the end, they involve the audience to all join in the deer dance. So the deer are dancing around with their bells and flailing around with their multicolored spider webbing sort of stuff that's coming out of their antlers. And so they sort of get introduced to deer culture um, in a brighter light, but they see the darker side of it. Um, they really do, because they've been poisoned, by the runoff from this environmental catastrophe with the deer. But before they go up to meet the chiefs, they up in the mountain, um, they get an appreciation for these deer people are, yes, they're wild, and they're causing ecological problems by overbreeding and being intoxicated all too often. But they're learning something new that they wouldn't be able to learn necessarily if they just flew off with the jaguar, right? So the deer have learned a lot from interacting with all of these different kinds of creatures that they wouldn't always interact with, because they have to interact with all these different creatures because they're addicted to the stuff that they're selling them. So it's really strange the way that their modification of consciousness is both a problem for them ecologically, and from generation to generation, these deer are getting increasingly problematic and sick to the landscape themselves. So their culture, they're in a cultural transition phase, really, the deer people are, and all of the other groups of people on the planet are wondering what's going to happen with the transition of deer culture in the age of the ram. Right? The ram people are going to be coming to the surface of the world now. Everyone's wondering, what is this going to mean for the ecological issues that are having with the deers, especially up north and down south where they have no deers. So this is the business operation that we're going to be building up to. Um, so we'll leave it there for now, and we'll get up to the East Coast in a little bit.